And now I have the honor to present Nikolaus Koutakis. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Nikolaus Koutakis, and I'm a psychology researcher from the University of Örebro in Sweden. I'm going to talk to you about a prevention program that I have developed together with a colleague in Sweden. And this program has spread pretty quick the latest couple of years throughout the world. And this is a prevention program, and I can kind of define what I mean with prevention. The question came up here before, and I mean, to prevent something, I mean, when you put pre before something, that means you do something in advance. And to prevent, that is to act today in order to not get problems tomorrow. So it's a kind of proactive way of handling things. So we are not waiting for problems to arise and then try to deal with them. That's what the police and the fire brigade is doing. We try to promote and prevent a good development. So that's what this program is about. As we all know, externalizing problem behaviors increase over the teenage years. I mean, when the kids are young, small kids, small problems. But when they are becoming teenagers, more things are coming into the picture. Here we can see a picture where we see the percentage of youth who said that they have been drunk and the percentage of parents who had found their kids drunk. So as you see, the red bars here is showing the kids that have been drunk the latest year. And it's about 20% in the Swedish data set here that say that they have been drunk when they are 13. But we see this figure increases, and when we look at the 16-year-olds, this is normal Swedish kids. We see that it's a normative behavior. It's actually pretty rare to find someone that haven't been drunk the latest year. And when we look at the parents, we can see that they are aware about this. A parent to a 13-year-old, they are, almost 10% of them know that their 13-year-old kid have been drunk the latest year. And we see also that over 40% of all parents to 16-year-olds know that their kids have been drunk. So a question would be then, how do parents react to this? What do a typical parent do? Because no parent wants their kids to run around in the town and be drunk and expose themselves to dangers and so on. So how do they react to this? We have longitudinal evidence when we look at and follow parents and kids over years that parents' reaction to youth problematic behaviors is to resign. A typical parental reaction when they face problems with their kids is that they actually take a few steps back, not be more active, but actually resign. And of course, this leads to that the problem actually increases because they are not improving or doing more parenting behaviors. Actually, they are taking steps back, which in itself, that leads to that the child gets even more chances to do problematic things. And we know more. We don't know because this kind of research is pretty new when we look at kids and parents together. Up till 4 or 5 years ago, most of the parenting research that was done were very simplistic. We had parents, we looked at parents, here we have a parent, and they are in a certain way. They can be democratic, they can be very authoritative, they can be different way. And then we look at the kids. Okay, so a parent that is in a certain way, how do that affect their kids? How do that affect their children's alcohol drinking or school achievement or whatever. That's a very simplistic way of looking at things, because we're missing something when we do this simplistic way. And that is that, we have the parent in a certain way doing something to the kid, but then the kid is doing something to the parent. Everybody that has a child that is somewhat demanding, they talk back to their parents, they are grooming in the morning or whatever, that puts challenges to the parent. It's perfectly easy to be a loving and a perfect father or parent if your child is a perfect child. But no one is actually having a perfect child. So it's always challenges. But when we look at those two things together, when we look at the parents, how they are and how the kid is back to the parent, when we see these feedback loops, then we understand things in a different way. And that's what we start to do right now. We don't know so much about that, but we know more about how parenting styles is related to youth adjustment. But that's just how parents are to their kids, not how the kids are back to the parent, which is, of course, very important here. One thing that is very important to consider when talking about preventing alcohol drinking among kids is expectations and rules from the parents. Here we can see two bars, and we see kids here, 16-year-old kids, that never have been drunk the latest year. So this is the kids that never have been drunk. What kind of kids have never been drunk the latest year? Well, it is yellow kids. Kids that have parents that are restrictive. They are not letting their kid drink alcohol, and they explain to their kid why they are not having their kid to drink alcohol, not even to sip from their own glass. And if we look at the other end of this continuum, kids that have been drunk more than 10 times. What kids have been drunk more than 10 times when they are 16 years old? Well, mainly it's kids that have parents that are more permissive. And permissive is not the right word here, because they are not actually permissive parents in that way, but they have no clear rules. They have no explicit clear rules to their kids. And those parents are often parents that, they don't want their kid to drink alcohol, but they are thinking for themselves, I don't want my kid to drink alcohol, but now my kid is 16 years old, and how should I do that? How should I achieve that my kid don't drink alcohol? Well, one way for me might be that I try to expose my kid to alcohol, to have my child to drink alcohol at home when I as an adult drink alcohol. Not to drink, but to have a sip from my glass. And in that way, take away the excitement from drinking alcohol. Because many parents, they think that kids are interested in alcohol just because it's forbidden for them. So they are trying to lessen the excitement by having the kids exposed to it. We know from research that parents that do this, that actually do let their kid have a sip of wine, for example, in the home, those kids are more prone to go out and drink and get drunk with their friends far away from home. So it's a signal, actually, that the parents are giving when they are doing this. And this is not just in Sweden. We have tested this in Holland, in Lithuania, in Finland, in many, many countries. And it's a rule that is actually very, very clear. But now, so far, we have had a child or a parent perspective, an adult perspective, what parents can do or what they shouldn't do if they don't want their kids to drink alcohol. But what about the kids here? What do they think? How do they perceive parents intervening in those things? Here we have a table that I did some years ago, or a year ago, when we wanted to look at what do children think is legitimate for parents to intervene. I mean, I, as a parent to my 16-year-old daughter, I know pretty well what I think my daughter think it's okay that I go in and decide about, and what I shouldn't go in and decide about, according to my daughter at least. Do you think my daughter would perceive it legitimate for me to say to her tomorrow, for example, that, oh, I booked a time for you to go to the hairdresser because I think you should have short hair now? Do you think my daughter would like that? Do you think I should decide on that? No, of course. Or that I put the clothes on her bed, what she should wear the next day in school or so. Of course not. But there is some things that she actually think I am allowed to have a say in. So here is a table. This is 2,300 kids responding to these questions. And we asked, and when we separated the questions into two categories: prudential issues, that is things that are potentially harmful, and then more personal issues. And what we did was that we asked the kids, do you think it's okay that your parents set limits for you concerning different things? For example, to drink alcohol, to smoke or use dry tobacco, to use hashish or other drugs and so on. And what we can see here is that, for example, to drink alcohol, to smoke or use dry tobacco, to use hash or other drugs, we see that many parents, many kids says that they think this is certainly true, that their parents are intervening in those issues. Now, this is a response scale on five response scales here, and I've just shown you the extremes, the certainly not and certainly true. So there's 3 response options in between here. But you can see more than 50% say that it's certainly true that I think this is okay. And if we look at the other end here, the personal issues, what web pages they should browse around or what music they should listen to. No, we have no legitimacy here from the teenager's point of view. But for those things that are potentially harmful, then kids actually expect parents to have rules and set regulations concerning those things. So parents can and are expected to be clear authorities within their family, even from an adolescent point of view. So a prevention program that we have developed that is called ÖPP, Örebro Prevention Program, that actually now have changed name to EFFECT. That rests on the principle that parents have an important role in regulating their youth. So parents are important, but are they motivated? Are a typical parent motivated to actually do what they can to decrease the likelihood that their children should drink alcohol? We must know that, because a common assumption is that parents of early adolescence are concerned about this issue and therefore highly susceptible and motivated to participate in prevention strategies. But is this really true? We like to think about parents as responsible adults that do what they can because they love their children and want them to steer them away from bad things. But are parents in general concerned? I mean, I cannot do a survey and ask parents, are you motivated to keep your child away from alcohol? Then every parent will say that, yes, I'm very motivated to do that. That's social desirability. We get that when we ask those kind of obvious things. So we have to kind of hide what we are asking about. So we ask in a different way. We ask parents, are you in general concerned about kids drinking alcohol? So we asked, do parents have worries that their children will get in trouble because of alcohol drinking? So that's what we ask questions, the parents. Do you have worries about this? So here is what the parents this is what youth think that their parents think. So first we asked kids, do you think that your parents are worried about you drinking alcohol and getting into trouble? So here is what the kids think about that. So 30% of the 13-year-olds, they think that their parents are concerned about this. And we see it's increasing among the parents to 14 to 15-year-olds. And then it's a drop to like 25% of the parents to 16-year-olds. But now we see what the parents are actually saying to this, because this is what the children believe. This is what the parents actually say. So we see that the levels here are considerably lower than what the kids think. And they are pretty low. 1 out of 5 parents are concerned about their kids drinking alcohol. I was really surprised about this, I must say. I was surprised about how that the level is so low, but even more surprised about the slope here. You see, it's pretty even, but it's actually decreasing. Parents to 16-year-olds are less worried than parents to 13-year-olds, and that is surprising to me, because I would say that if I, as a parent, have a 10-year-old and someone asks me, are you worried that your child will drink alcohol and get into trouble for that? I would say no, because 10-year-olds typically don't drink. But if you ask a parent to a 16-year-old, then most parents know that it's pretty common for 16-year-olds to drink alcohol. And if my kid hang out with kids that actually drink alcohol, the likelihood is not zero, at least. So parents in general do not worry to the same extent as the youths believe. And we expected increasing levels of parent worries as the child grows older, of course. So parents are more likely to have caught their child drunk the older the child is. That's the assumption we had. Isn't it true, like if parents, and as I showed you before, and I will show you again now, I mean, if a child is older and they're also had been drunk more times, more frequently, then the parent have had more chances to actually caught the child drunk. And if I as a parent have actually seen my child drunk, then as a responsible parent, I would probably be more concerned. That's how I thought about it. Most parents are responsible parents, and they should be concerned when they see their kid come home and be drunk. And maybe not just come home and be drunk. Maybe they are sick, or they have lost their new expensive cell phone, or damaged their clothes, or done anything else that they wouldn't do while sober. Sexual or violence or whatever. You know, everything can happen. So this awareness ought to make parents more concerned. That's what I thought. But look here, what is actually happening. First, here we see the number of parents that have caught their child drunk. And this is the same figures I showed you before. So it's increasing. So over 40% of parents to 16-year-olds have seen with their own eyes their child drunk, and not just drunk, but also often consequences of drinking alcohol. But what happens with those parents' worries about underage drinking? You can see that this is totally unrelated. They have nothing to do with each other. So if I, as a parent, have seen or not seen my child being drunk and have had troubles with alcohol, it is totally unaffected. And this really surprised me. And most people that I showed those figures for. So parents in general do not seem to worry, not for their kids drinking alcohol at least. They worry for many things, but this is not the top priority. And if parents do not worry about underage drinking, they are not motivated to engage in actions aiming to reduce it, right? Why should we try to fix something that is not broken? So from that, we invented this prevention program that was called Örebro Prevention Program, ÖPP, but now have changed name to EFFECT. And there's a website if you're interested, effect.org. What do we do then? Well, the target is parents to 13 to 15-year-olds. And what we do is that we give parents information on what they can do on ordinary school meetings. In the school, all schools have school meetings, and 15 to 20 minutes of each parent meeting is devoted to information for what parents can do to keep their kids away from alcohol. So the dose is really low here. It's not hours, it's 15 to 20 minutes. And what we do is that we give facts and arguments for parents to actually maintain and uphold a restrictive attitude towards underage drinking and have clear expectancies to their kids to not drink alcohol. We also have side effects here because many schools and many countries have adopted this program, and one problem with it is that they are doing this and they are implementing this program, but forget to do other things. They think this will fix everything. This is a good program. It's just, I mean, we show effects. I will show you in a minute here, but it's not changing the whole society. You must do different things. And for example, in this program, we are just targeting the parents. Of course, a program would be more effective if you target also the kids, as we heard before. But the good thing about this program, and probably the reason why it has spread so quick, is that it's easy to administer. It's easy for communities and local governments to actually work with without any cost. Because what this program is about, it's to work with the actors that's already in the school, the teachers, the parents, and so on. We are not inventing new things. We're playing with the institutions that's already there. And I think that in order to be successful in the prevention work, the programs must target parents in order to reduce underage drinking, and they should work through a strategy to influence and question common ideas and parental practices. So we have to questioning what's out there right now and challenge, for example, the parents. So you can say that this program works in 3 stages. The first stage that we're actually doing during these 15 to 20 minutes. The first stage here is to initially focus on making parents aware of the problems with underage drinking, even to the extent that negative emotions are evoked. And the purpose here is to make parents more open to suggestions for change. What we're doing for this first stage is actually that we are showing parents ordinary statistics. We're showing them how common is it that kids in your children's age have been drunk, and what are the common consequences of children that drinks alcohol: violence, unprotected sex, and so on. And this actually, although it's ordinary statistics we are showing them, you can see and tell from the faces of the parents that they are actually scared. They are really affected by this. Now, everyone knows that to scare someone to change their behavior, that doesn't work. But initially, in our 15 to 20 minutes, the first 2 minutes is used by actually scaring the parents with realistic figures. But the second stage is, I mean, we don't scare them up and say, okay, we see you in 6 months. Of course not. The next step is to try to tear down the parental misconceptions about youth drinking, such that most youths drink and it's not possible for the parents to change these situations. We're actually trying to make the parents feel that they actually can make a difference, because they can. But most parents don't think they can, because now they have 16-year-olds. Any parent that have a 6-year-old, they know that they are a really important person in their kid's life. A 6-year-old, when they come home from kindergarten or school or where they have been, they run up to the lap of their mother and father and tell them all about everything that happened. And if something really funny have happened or something really sad, you as a parent is the first one to know about this. But when you have a 16-year-old, it's different. You're not the first one to be told those things. And many parents interpret this as they are not important as in their children's life anymore. They really don't realize that, I mean, it's different phases that the child is going through, and they show affection in different ways to the parents, maybe not to disclose everything they are doing. So this second step is actually to have parents feel that they are empowered. They actually can do a difference, and they are still important figures in the child's life. And we give different examples on that. So we're trying to get them to go from a powerless stage to actually feel empowered, that they can make a difference. And the third stage here is to implement specific techniques. Because first we have scared them up, and then they said, you can be calm, it's not a big problem here, because you as parents, they are really important. But the third stage is, of course, to tell them what they can do as important persons. So what are the things you can do? So parents should be taught clear and simple rules about how to prevent and handle their adolescents' drinking behavior. And this is general. I mean, it's not just concerning drinking. We talk about other things as well. So you can see this program effect as a three-stage rocket. The first thing is that we raise the concern from the parents. The second is that we try to empower the parents, that they feel that they can actually make a difference. And then we give the parents tools, concrete things that they can deal with in their home. They don't need to buy an expensive book or be free from their work to do something. Within their family, they can actually do these things. So you can see this as a three-stage rocket. And what we did was that we did a prevention program. And the research question we posed here was, what if we try to maintain parents' restrictive attitudes towards underage drinking? Is it possible to do that? And will this have an impact on their children's alcohol drinking? And note what words I'm using here. We're trying to maintain the parents' levels of restrictiveness. We're not trying to change it. And what I mean here is that a typical parent to an 11-year-old, a 10-year-old, they are restrictive. They don't think it's okay for their kids to drink alcohol and be drunk and so on. But the same parent a few years later, they are becoming more lenient towards this. What we are trying to do is that we are trying to freeze this situation. We're trying to have the parents stay by this idea. So we're not waiting for the parents to change their mind and think that, oh, they are 14-year-olds, it's not a big problem if they are drinking alcohol. I did that too when I was in that age and so on. We're trying to have the parents and give them different arguments for why they should keep this attitude. And the question is, if we achieve this, if we can make parents to actually maintain this attitude, will this have an impact on their kids' drinking? Another thing that we do on these parent meetings is that we have consensus agreements. We are advising the parents to discuss with other parents on common rules. For example, I can give you a fresh example from a school that I talked to the other week, actually. They gave me a good example of a parent agreement. Because this was a class where they were pretty... they knew about this program. This was the third, I think, presentation in this class. And one mother, she was just waiting for this thing in the program when they should discuss common rules. Because she said like this, I have noticed a problem in my family for the latest months. And that is that I have problems getting my son, my 14-year-old son, to go to bed at a time that I think is appropriate. And this have consequences because my child don't want to go to bed at 11 o'clock. And I know that in the morning my son is really tired. He don't want to eat breakfast. And that will, of course, affect him during the school day. He cannot learn and sit still and so on while hungry. And the main reason for why I can't get my son into bed at the time that I think is appropriate is that my son is sitting on Facebook or MSN or whatever in front of the computer chatting with others. And this mother asked, do you, other parents, do you have the same situation in your home? And most parents nodded like this because they had the same kind of situation. And this mother said, yeah, I expected that because I think it's your kids that my kid is chatting with. And can we help each other by having common rules about this? If we tell our kids that, I don't know, 10 or 9:30 or whatever, appropriate time is a time when you are closing down your computer, my son, but not just you, the people you are chatting with too. in these ages, you don't want to be the last one to shut down the computer because you might miss important information for the next school day. But if you know that all your peers will do the same time, then it's easier both for the kids but also for the parents. So this is a very simple way on how parent agreements actually work out in the families. It's easier, and the conflicts are actually very, very, they are decreasing by these kind of things. This is just an example now about computer time, but I have numerous examples. What we do is that we give information on underage drinking, that parent values matter, and about letting the child drink alcohol. That's the content in the parent meetings. And we have these consensus agreements, and we are advising the parents to have clear and restrictive house rules about, for example, alcohol. And also, after each parent meeting, we send a concluding letter to all parents, because all parents don't show up on the parent meetings for various reasons. And the parents that didn't show up, they get a mailing anyway, through email or mail, ordinary mail, something concluding about what was said during this parent meeting, and also the consensus agreements, so they get that. Here is the results from the intervention. Here we have a control group and an intervention group. And the black line here is the control group. So this is what we see, the typical trajectory. Over time, in a typical parent group, over time they become more lenient towards underage drinking. The higher in this scale, the more restrictive they are, and the lower, the more lenient. So you see, a typical parent group, they are becoming more lenient over time. But the group that we were working with, 15 to 20 minutes every 6 months, is that we actually maintained their restrictiveness. And it didn't drop, not that much at least. And what you can see more here is that the parents we worked with, 15 to 20 minutes, they have the same attitudes towards underage drinking as when their kids are 16-year-olds, as an ordinary group have when their kids are 13-year-old. So we have actually freezed the time here. So let's see what happens with the children's drinking now, because this is just the parents' attitudes. That's not the important thing. We want to see, did this decrease the underage drinking? And it did. Here we see delinquency and drunkenness for the two groups. And as you can see, the control group is higher in underage drinking. And this is actually, the scale here is the number of drinking occasion the latest month. So you can see from here, it's actually half a drinking occasion. So we have decreased alcohol drinking, one drinking occasion in 2 months, if you want to interpret it in concrete terms. The effect sizes here are really big. But this program does not only have effect in alcohol drinking, because we're decreasing one norm-breaking behavior, as alcohol drinking is. What happens with theft and skipping school and so on? We can see that here in delinquency. We also have strong effects in delinquency. Now, as you all know, it's pretty clever to give information to parents in a school meeting, because many parents come to the school meetings. But I cannot bullshit with you. You're teachers and you know about the school meetings. And you probably know that the parents that you are most eager to get to the school meeting, they're often not coming for various reasons. Are you familiar with that? Yeah. So I was really concerned about this too. So I did a separate analysis looking at troubled kids. And I defined the troubled kids by early starters. So children that early have started to drink alcohol, or children that early on have high levels of delinquency, are they also benefiting from this program? So those analyses we see here, they are on early starters in alcohol drinking and in delinquency. And we can see that we have really strong effects even for those early starters. And I'm not sure about whether those parents don't show up, because I couldn't measure it in my intervention. But I can say that the parents that we are worried about, the ones that often don't show up, their kids actually benefit from this program. And the effect sizes in this program is strongest for the ones that is early starters. So we have really strong effects here. And here's the effect sizes. This is technical for you researchers. You can see that it's actually pretty strong effect sizes here. So conclusions here. Any effective prevention program must focus on important conditions that are realistic to alter. And in order to be able to mobilize parents, it's crucial to have them motivated. Parent attitudes and parenting practices concerning underage drinking matters. And the Örebro prevention program, or EFFECT as it's called now, approach is effective in maintaining parents' restrictiveness and thereby decrease underage drunkenness. So in a normal trajectory, in a normal developmental process, what we see is that over time, parents' attitudes will become more lenient. They are becoming more lenient. And at the same time, underage drinking is increasing. But in our results, we show that when we can keep the parents' attitudes in a pretty stable level, then the drunkenness will decrease more and more moderate. We will have a smaller increase, and compared to a control group, it's big, big differences. So here is the rocket again landing safely. No, I mean, this is an example of a pretty simple way to actually work in a school, in a typical school, with the parents to actually prevent this kind of problems. It's a simple way, and it's designed to work with the situations, with the traditions that are out in the schools, with the school parent meetings. And in the next couple of days, we will train a group of people here in Tallinn to actually work with this program. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Nikolaus. We have time for a few questions.
Tere, aitäh. Valter Parve, Tartu Ülikooli Pärnu kolledži sotsiaaldirektor. Mul on ettekandjale kõigepealt aitäh väga sisuka ja õpetliku lähenemise eest, aga mul on küsimus temale. Ma kirjeldan ühte juhtumit, millega ma tutvusin Rootsis 10 aastat tagasi, kui ma olin sotsiaaltöötajate ennetusprogrammis SIF, elasin Jävles umbes nädal aega härra Sveni juures, kelle 2 teismelist tütart elasid lahutatud abikaasaga koos, aga lähestikku. Ja hakkas lähenema juunikuus põhikooli lõpupidu ja on tavaks, et selle lõpupidu toimub Jävlelinna pargis ja kõik joovad ennast silmituks, et noored seal. Ja siis selle lõpupäeva hommikul need tema tütred tulid Sveni juurde ja ütlesid, et isa, tule sinna parki jalutama, siis meil on kergem ei öelda oma sõpradele, kes tahavad, et me jooksime. Ma läksin Sveniga parki kaasa ja see oli tõesti hämmastav, mida ma nägin. Sadu ja sadu vanaemased, vanasid jalutasid pargis hommikul kella 3-4. See oli suure selles mõttes, et need vanad inimesed ei sekkunud mitte kuidagi, nad olid lihtsalt kohal, jalutasid, ajasid juttu ja need noored 14, 15, 16 aastased jõid, nii et vahel pidi kiirabiauto tulema ja ära viima, kes ikka väga joonud olid. Aga me olime kohal ja mingis mõttes oli see selle olukorra kontrolli hoidmine. Ja minu küsimus nüüd, et kas see oli Jävle omapära või on see Rootsis üldiselt niimoodi, et vanavanemad oma kohalolekuga hoiavad niisugused hirmsat joomist tagasi?
No, it's not typical to Gävle. It's actually a movement in Sweden to have, and in other countries as well, to have adults in the town. In Sweden we call them vuxna på stan. That means adults out in the town. And they are kind of patrolling, sometimes with jackets saying adults in the town, or sometimes as ordinary parents. They are patrolling and are like seeing the kids. Because when there is problems, where there is a lot of kids getting really drunk and so on, where they are, giving the chance to do it, is because there are no adults around. Then they can do whatever they want, and sometimes they do. And when it's fights or so on, it's often but in places where there's no adults. So that's actually a movement in many countries.
Thank you. I want to ask a brief question. Yeah. What is a typical time of first drink for young people in Sweden? Age?
It's around 13.
13.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I would say.
Okay. We are here a little more advanced.
Yeah, Sweden is in the lower segment of alcohol problems in Europe. Although I think, to have 60-70% of the kids age 16 to have been drunk, if that is a lower segment, I can just imagine how it is in other countries.
But you start with the intervention then with 13, with parents of 13-year-olds, the time they have typically first drink. So it would be like reasonable to conclude that in Estonia, where the typical drink is usually like age 11, then that would be the time to start with prevention.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. And in Sweden right now, we are developing this program, and we'll start earlier. 9 or to parents or 9 or 10 years old. But then we will focusing on other things. But the important thing is to have parents feel that they actually can make a difference, to empower parents, because it's so sad to see parents to 15, 16-year-olds that don't think they actually are important people in their kids' life anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Now the last question, Carol has it before the break. Silja. It should be. It should be on.
Sorry, but just to echo what Nikolaus said is in Netherlands, which is also a complicated country, if you look at ESPAD, which is a long survey that we have since 95, looking at the 15 and 16 years old in 32 countries, so we have a good picture of what is youth drinking in Europe, and there are very good data. Netherlands was really a problematic country. It went everywhere up in 2003, then stabilized, but Netherlands. And what I felt on top of what Nikolaus is presenting, which is somehow putting rules back into society. Parents or an adult should care about seeing an underage person drunk in the street. They should feel that they have something to say. But like in a school, it's always easier to do it because there is an agreement between the parents to do so. In society, it's the same. So the example of our colleagues in Netherlands, maybe it's still too young, but they have a slogan which was agreed across the society in Netherlands, not 16, not a drop, which has been heavily advertised on TV. It's a logo that you see everywhere. There've been campaigns where you see a kid that is in the glass. You see this glass, and the kid is trying to grow within the glass and doesn't grow because we know the impact of alcohol on body development and brain damages that it does. I think it's giving the permission to the entire society to precisely say no to underage drinking. So all what Nikolaus presented, what I present, what others are doing, I think it's all a combination. Nothing will work alone. I'm pretty convinced. It's a combination of that plus combination of enforcement by police, of legal aid. It's everyone's roles and responsibility. It's not just the industry to be blamed. Everyone has a role to play in addressing that. But to me, very much is society. Stop this indulgence there is for excessive drinking. Society should say no to excessive drinking, and this should be a battle for everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree. I can just comment on that. One of the first countries that adopted this program outside of Sweden was Netherlands. And I thought to myself that if this program will work in the Netherlands, it will work everywhere. I mean, that's Europe's Sodom and Gomorrah. So actually, they did a really rigorous evaluation. I shouldn't use biblical terms here, but they did a really thorough evaluation of the program and show effects, and especially together with this program. So when they use the ÖPP approach to the parents, together with information to the kids, they show really, really strong effects. That was really interesting. And after that, it spread, because, as I said, if it works there, it works everywhere.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.